So I started recording. So one more quick announcement that I discussed with Joel Bhai yesterday. So he will pick 4 or 5 students based on performance, based on homework assignment, and based on overall involvement. And we'll start marketing a little earlier, actually. So he will discuss more about that tomorrow. So he will discuss more. So I don't want to spend extra time. So Pavel, you can start and you can give a brief description that what you are covering. Thank you.
So good afternoon all, and first of all, thank you Santoy for giving me opportunity to speak on whatever I know on API. So really thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about myself, right? So I was like all of you, right? It's have been 1 year since I have a job, and the position I am on is like next to QA lead. My current role is I am a principal QA engineer, so where my responsibility is making sure, right, whatever we are testing, and like making sure that everything is covered accurately, and just going through all the requirements and talking to other QA business analysts, providing my feedbacks, what can we improve. So yeah, pretty much that's all. And today what we are going to cover is I have found one really nice API, which has, a sort of, real life, whatever, if you guys are going to join as a API tester, you will see most likely one of those. So it's really nice API. And in that API, we're going to cover all the operations such as how can we create a user, right? And how to retrieve or read this user, then how can we update and delete this user. So let me share my screen and we can begin. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So let's cover some of the basic stuff, right? I think Shantavai already introduced API last class. So let's cover, what is API? Can any of you tell me or no?
Yeah, API is a application programming interface.
Yep. And anything, right? How it is useful, right? What is the reason, right? We are using APIs.
I think to communicate the third-party app.
Yeah, you are there. So yeah, API is very useful, right? Communicate with two application.
Yes.
And the reason behind it is like, we don't know what are the logics, right? We can take leverage of other APIs. I think many of you already are familiar, right? Nowadays, there is so many APIs such as Google, Facebook, right? If you want to log into any application, you will see, right? You can log in through Google, Facebook, Twitter, those APIs, which are, if let's take an example, right? If I am a building, I have a, one application and I don't want to use anything for my logging, right? Because I can take leverage of other applications such as Google. So for this purpose, that perspective, right? API is very helpful. So let me write something. Is yeah. So does any of you are familiar with card operation, CRUD?
Uh, yeah, card means create, update, retrieve, and delete.
Yep, perfect. So in API, right, similarly, we do have those call. I think most of you are familiar with it. So let's just, detail let me just, provide you some of the information how we will be using the card operation. Yeah, like you said, let me see, RUD. So C is stand for create. In API, right, we don't call create, we call it
Post.
post, correct? Yeah, and if you want to create anything, right, what in API, right, we say resources, right? Instead of operation, we say create a resource. So which is like, broad terms. If you join in any company, right? So some of the developers or any business analysts, they will come to you and tell you, okay, could you provide me some details on, let's say, user resource? So it this means like, they're talking about the operation, right? So let's see, create the resource or data, and R is read, or you could also say sometime retrieve the resource, and U is update the resource or data, you could say, and D is for delete, right? So like you mentioned, one of you, right? Create C, in API, we call it post. So before going to that, right, I just wanted to mention, right, it is very important that you guys understand, right, how exactly in a real-time application, right, how exactly it works, right? First of all, without, let me ask you like this way. First thing that, we have to understand, can we get a data without creating it? For example, right, if I want to retrieve, let's say, Shanto from the database, can I get it without creating it? The answer would be no, right? Because in the database, there is no record for Shanto and I am trying to read it. So first, what we have to do is create something, then we have to retrieve, then we can get this information. Then, we can either update, delete, whatever we wants to do, we can do it. So let's talk about in API, right? If you wants to create a data through Postman, there is a couple of things which is required. So first would be, let's say, to create a user. So first is we'll need to understand, right, which method or which HTTP method we'll need to use. So for that, we'll be using post call, right? Post HTTP methods. And there is some of the most important thing, right? You will need the URI. Does anyone of you know, right, what is URI? So URI is basically stand for Universal Resource Identifier. So second thing, we'll need URI. And before we understand, right, in URI, there is a couple of things which, we have to understand from perspective of interview, right? In what I have noticed, right, most of the people can't explain what is URI in the interview. Excuse me. In URI, right, it is combination of domain URL plus resource identifier. So let me just show you, instead of talking. by myself. I think you all understand what I'm talking about. So this is the API we will be testing, right? So this part is called as a domain URL, right? And this second portion of it is called as a resource identifier or service URL. Combination of domain URL plus service resource identifier is called as an URI. So this is very important that we all understand, right? Most of the time in interview, I am positive, right? 90% time people will ask you, okay, can you tell me the difference between URL, URI, resource identifier? So from the interview perspective, I want all of you to understand, right? What is this and what are the logic, right? If you can also other way identify what is domain URL, right? If you just go to google.com or anything, right, the first portion of it is going to be the domain URL. Then you will see forward slash, also is kind of known as a path parameter, but I don't want to go there. Just as of now, if you guys understand, right, if it's just a resource identifier. So let me just go and write it here. Or let me take a screenshot of it, make it more nice. So this version is called domain URL. Change the color to green. And this version is called as a resource identifier. So let me go here. I'll share those notes right after the class. So if you guys want to look at, you guys can. So we'll need the URI. And third thing which we will require is creating a data, right? We have to send some sort of body or right, some sort of record which we want to create, right? So it is in API, we call that as a payload. Payload can be, we can send payload as a JSON format or XML format or string, but 99% of the time in REST API, we'll be sending as a payload, will be send payload as a JSON format. So before jumping to that, let me just add that in there. Payload, and payload can be its JSON format, right? String. Okay, let me also give you a brief overview on, right, what are the formats of JSON, XML. I think all of you know how we send a string. So in to create a JSON payload, right, we will need to understand, right, what is the JSON format. So JSON is a if we could say, it's not a language, it's like a style. So it's a key and value format which we can send as a, let's say the API where in the post call, right, we are trying to create a user. So what are the required fields? If you want to create a record, what are the information we should pass, right? First of all, we have to give a name, right? So there will be one name field, and name could be anything. Let's say Shanto. Then we should pass Shanto's email, right? So there will be another email. And let's say we are going to send Shanto's gender as well. So this is the JSON format we'll be using in the APIs. And let me also show you, right, most of the time in the application, right, which if you guys are going to join, you will need to require some sort of XML knowledge as well, right? What is the format? If anyone asks you, you guys can just show it, right? This is the XML format and this is the JSON format. So let me also show you the XML format as well. So in XML, right, we put less than sign, then we're going to use same value, name, then greater than sign, then we're going to put the value, which is Shanto, then again less than sign. And to close this tag, right, to tag, we're going to put one /, then the whatever is the value. It's like variable. It's like you could say it's a data type, not data type. It's like it's a variable which is a name. So we can say name, then we can close this tag. It's gonna be same thing. Let me just copy and paste so we can. Email at gmail.com. Email. Yeah, so this is the XML format and this is the JSON format. So 99% of the time you guys will be sent a 99%, I'm pretty sure you guys will send in a JSON format. And there is one another very important thing which is required, right? If you want to send, if you want to create any record, which is headers. So in this API, we are gonna, I don't think it requires any headers, but we can take a look. So headers, in headers, right, we can pass all sort of information such as, right, what kind of JSON payload we'll be sending. And there is one another very important, which is authorization, right? If you want to create a record in someone's application, right, does you have the permission to create it? So in headers, we're going to pass content type, then authorization. In authorization, right, there is a couple of ways we can send, which is like key value pairs, right? So I'll show you once in the Postman, so I think that will make more sense. So for the create a record, right, these are the couple of main important resource or couple of information which is required, because without knowing those information you cannot create anything. And there, so we just covered the first post call. So let's do for one get, right? what are the information is required for the get call. So to make a get call, we require URI. Number two, there is one really nice advantage in get call. We don't need to send any payload, right? So no payload. Number three, we will require headers. Headers. So these are the couple of things you will need to make a get call, which is URIs, headers, and I'm not sure does it requires anything, but we can take a look. So if you want to do the same thing, right? If you want to make put call, it's almost requires same of the information. So it requires URI, then it requires payload, right? Put is like, we are going to update some information. So if you want to update anything, it requires, right? What are the information you want to update? So it requires payload. And three, it requires headers. Yeah, so those are the couple of things which will be required if you want to make a put call. So last, we are gonna use delete. So for delete, right, is required almost same. We'll need the URI, then payload, then three, which is headers. Okay, so these are the couple of important things, which is required to make all those calls, right? If you want to make a HTTP call, so these are the couple of information you need. So this is the API which we'll be working on today. This is a really nice API. You can get, real life experience, you could say. And if you look at some of the information, they already provide some of the resource, and they're also telling us, right, what this resource will do. So if you look at here, right, they're saying if you want to create a user, right, you will need to use this resource. And if I come, if I come a little bit down here, right, they're already giving you to try their API without actually need the authentication. So for that, right, you can make all the get calls without logging into their application and getting the access to con. So let me go to Postman, and I think let's make a get call first and get the users. Then we can deep dive into how can we create a user, then retrieve this user. So for this course, I believe all of you already have the Postman installed on your system. If not, right, you can download Postman from the Google. So there is a couple of ways, right, you can create, right? If you look at this plus icon, right, if you click on, it's gonna open this window, or it's kind of like projects, if you could say. So in here, right, there is a couple of options you will see. Those are the HTTP calls, HTTP methods which you can use. So there is get, post, put, page, delete, and I haven't worked any of those, right? Copy, head, option, link, and I haven't seen those, in my company yet. So most of the times which you will be using is almost 70% of time you will be making get call, and other 30% time either you're going to update, and very rarely, right, you will see delete, because in a organization they don't want to delete any user from their database, right? If they have delete operation, and let's say there is someone who doesn't know what exactly this resource do, and they perform the delete operation, which could which would lead them lose their all the records and everything. So very rarely you will see delete operation, but if they have delete, it requires, right, some security level, which like someone like business analyst or product manager, they will have access for delete most of the times, and they will provide you tokens, right? You won't be getting tokens like if it's like users related or any sensitive data information, so you won't be performing any delete operation. So to perform a get operation to retrieve all the users, right, I'm going to go to this link, which is go-rest-co.in, and they're already saying here you can get user details, right? But in here, what exactly saying is get a user details for specific user 123. But as of now, we haven't created any user. So we are trying to get all the users. So I have noticed one of the thing, by using this URI, we can get all the users whatever they have in their database. So for example, I'm just going to copy paste this URL, and we are making get call, right? And it doesn't require any headers for the get calls. And if you click on send, you will see the response. Here you can see all the response, right? In response, there is a couple of important things which we need to look at, such as status code, time, size. But most of the time you don't have to worry about size, because most of the times, right, all the information you are saying is keep adding. So the important one is like, you have to keep eye on what is the status code. So if status code is 200, right, that means we are hitting the server successfully. And in the response, right, there's a couple of things we need to look at. There is body, which is means like, you can, under the body, you can see the response. And there is a couple of format you can see response in: pretty, then there is raw, which is kind of like ugly, if you could say, and there is preview, then there is visualize. So I'm most of the time you just want a response in pretty format, so you can understand. And there is some of the other information such as cookies. Right now we don't have any cookies, so it's empty. And this is the another important fields which we need to look at is headers. So in headers, right, there is a couple of things you can see, right? We are seeing response as a JSON format. So content type is application/JSON. And there in other tab is test results. In the test results, you can see, what are the assertion you have performed. Currently, we don't have any assertion, so we are not seeing anything. Okay, and this is the information looks like, right? If you want to create any data, a user have ID, so uniquely can identify, and we'll need to have username, email, gender, status, and these two fields, when you are creating a user, it's not required, but in the response, we can see there is created ad, and this is the value, right, when this user was created, and update it when last update was happened for this user. So let's jump into how can we create a user, right? So let's go that. I'm just going to click on this plus icon, and let me go to this notes, right, which I have written, right? So first of all, right, to create a users, we'll require to use post call. Then we need the URI. So we can get the URI from the website itself. Here it's going to be the same URI. Then third thing is, right, we required payload, right? So in this application, they already accept the JSON format. So we have to send our payload as JSON. So we can create a JSON like, similar this format, similar like this one. So let's go in. So let's look at let's look at this user information. So we can copy this user and send it, and let's see. So if you want to send a body, right, you can see there is body. Just click on it, and we are going to send our body as, you will see a couple of options, right? How can we set it? Non form data, XWXS form, and then raw, then binary, and GraphQL, right? So just go to raw, and you can paste here, and you will see this tab, right? We want to send our response in JSON format. So click on JSON, and like I said, right, we don't need to send, we don't we don't have to pass this ID value in our payload, because ID is going to be unique, and we'll get this ID from this application, right? And we also don't need this to field as well. So I'm just going to delete it. And if you look at here, right, if you click on this beautify, which is right now, right, our payload is kind of, I don't want to use the word ugly, but it's not looking nice. So if you click on this beautify, right, which is going to organize your JSON payload. So if you look at here, right, now we can read it. And earlier, like I said, right, JSON is JSON format is a key and value format. So this is my key, which is name, and this is the name, right? And if you look at here, right, it's giving us one error. So the error means in the last line, right, we don't have to put any comma. So I'm just going to remove it. And the user which we are trying to create is Shanto. So let's work on it. Shanto, and let's give Shantabai last name is J, and let's keep his email, right? So .com, and gender is male. So okay, we have done our step three, right? Step three, we have passed our payload, but right now we have to give the headers, right? What kind of information we are passing. And in headers, we also require the authorization. So let me just go to this application, right? And if you look at this line, which is says request method put, post, page, delete need access token, which need to be passed in authorization headers as a bearer token. So to get a access token, they already provide this link. Just click on it. Let me open in separate windows here. And this is earlier, I think I mentioned, right? We can take leverage, right? For this application, they're taking the Google, Facebook, and GitHub APIs leverage to for the logging. So instead of they're writing it right, from the scratch, they're taking leverage from third-party APIs such as Google. So let's, whichever accounts you have, you can log in. So let's go for Google, just click on it. And it's saying, right, you have to enter your Google. So let me go. So this is my email, and I think I already have password. now you will get one access token. So this access token is very important to make any get, post or delete call. So let me copy this and go back to my Postman. And in the headers, right? If we look at here, need access token in headers as a bearer token, right? So we'll go in the headers tab, and the whatever token I just copied, right, is the value of, is the value, right? Now we'll need a key, right? What is going to be our key to save this value, right? So they have already said what kind of key we need, right? We have to pass our key as a authorization. So let's go. And if I click on send, what do you guys think? Does it gonna create any records, or are we gonna get any errors? Hello? Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, probably.
So does it gonna create any records, or what do you guys think? Are we missing anything? So let's try, right? Let's click on send and let's see what we get, right? So right now, if you look at, right, it's very interesting. I was also kind of intrigued with this, right? Whatever we are saying, we are getting the status code as a 200. But if you look at the response body, right, it's giving us code 401 and metadata is null. And if you look at this message, right, which is saying authentication failed. So this is the another important thing that I wanted to bring up, right? Most of the times, right, people might ask you, right, okay, tell me what does mean status code 200, right? So most of the people, they answer, okay, status code 200 means successfully, we are hitting the server and we are getting successful response. But they fail to mention, right, if it is, they fail to mention that in the response, right, you might not get successful response. In, if you look at, right now we are getting the message as authentication failed. So it's very important for us to understand status code 200 meanings we are hitting this server successfully, right? Whatever call we are trying to make it to this API is going successfully, but when it try to retrieve the information, right, is unable to get it because we are not passing the valid authentication. So to pass the valid authentication, right, we missed one point, which is, right, which need to be passed authorization header as a bearer token. So we missed this keyword. So we have to pass this in here. Bearer, we have to append the access token or authorization token with bearer. Now, if we send, right, it should create successfully. Let's see what we get. So, okay, right now we are getting status code 200, right? And there is one another code, which is 201, right? We should have get, 201 instead of 200, but, it's a keyway, right? Whenever we are creating a resource, right? The status code actually should be 201, but we can see the status code is 200, right? So as a QA, if you are testing any API and you see this kind of, status code mismatch, it's not a major bug, but you can bring up on the meetings, right? Okay, whenever we are creating a resource, we should see the status code as a 200. I mean, status code as a 200 instead of 201. And if you look at the response, right, there is a couple of information we need to look at. Right now, meta is null, but we are not worried about that. The only information we wanted, right, what is the Santos ID? So we can uniquely identify, okay, this is Shantoboy ID. And the name, is it the same name, whatever we passed? Right? We pass Shanto J, and email, then gender, then status, right? Which is active, and this is the created ad. So right now, if you want to get these specific users, right? eh, I think Shantobai already covered the database, right? There is something called as query parameters in API, is same thing as where clause in, you know, in SQL or any of the database. So for that, let's go and take a look some of the information from here. Yes, so now we are not going to use any query parameters, but to get user details, right, we can just, you can send something like this. We can pass, after users, we can pass the ID, and which will retrieve the user we just created. So let's do this. And I'm just gonna copy the URI. Then if you just look at the UI, right, you have to put / then ID, and the ID value was 1507, right? So let's put 1507, and there is a couple of, since we are making get call, but it does not require, you know, any headers, but it's good to put all the headers information what we have, right? So let me go to headers and copy this value with authorization, and this is our value. And if, okay, okay, we need to go to headers and pass it there. Sorry. Authorization, and if you click on send, right, you should get one successful response. And you see, right, these are the information which is returned by this service. And right now what we are doing, we are getting a specific for a particular user information, right? And previously when we make a get calls, right, we are getting the list of users, right? And this means we are getting all the users in that application, in the Gorest application. So right now what we have done is we create a user and we are getting that specific user information. And before I move on to some of the advanced stuff, right, I wanted you guys to understand, right, how exactly we are gonna take leverage of, you know, all the HTTP calls, and how can we send the data as a JSON format, and what are the requests and everything. So we'll move on to assertion and everything later, but let's look at some, let's use one of the delete and fetch call as delete and put call. So if you want to, you know, update this user, specific user, we can use the similar, you know, whatever we have right now, and just change the HTTP method to put. So let's do that. And let me go to my notes as well, right? Here, to make a put call will require URI, payload, and headers, right? So let's go. and I'm just gonna copy this URI and change my method to put, right, where we want to update some of the information which we just created. So to update it, right, let me get the body here. So to update the information, you will require to send all the body, right? Is complete body, whatever you have. So let me select JSON. So let's say I want to update Shanto's email, right? To, let's say, his email change it to Shanto at XYZ, right? XYZ.com. And if you click on send, does it gonna work or is it gonna give me any errors? What do you guys think?
I think it will give the error because the email address it is not matching for the database like that.
Okay, so in that call, right, in the put call, what we are trying to do, right, we are trying to update the information. In other words, right, we are trying to change this email. Previously, it was at gmail.com, right? We are trying to add shanto at xyz.com. So we are trying to update this email. So I hope that makes clear, right?
Yeah, Max.
So
Yeah, thank
yeah, it won't give any error because we have wrong email address, but are we missing anything, right? So if you look at here, there is one important thing we missed, which is headers, right? If I click on send, which it will give me errors. So let's see, it's giving me authentication failed, right? So it's giving me 401, which is status code error. And 401 is like unauthorized, meaning, right, we don't have the valid authentication token. So to add a authentication token, we can either go to our one of the old requests, which is just copy it from there, pass it there, and if I click on send, right now it should work. So let's see. Oh, nice. Are we missing anything? Oh, okay, let me see. Okay, I have. Yeah, so sometimes, right, you just need to look at wherever you are making mistakes. So I have missed spell authorization. Now if I send, it should work successfully. So if you see here right now, is the email address got updated to shanto at xyz.com, right? And previously, if I go to one of my this call, right, this is where we get this specific user, right? And when we make this call, it was at gmail.com, right? So once you update any information, right, you need to check, okay, did it update successfully? So to check that, right, you can do it two ways. Either you can log into database and check if the user added successfully in the database. And let's say you don't have database access. The other way you could do is take the leverage of get APIs and pass the same way, right? You can pass all the information whichever is required to get a specific user information. So to verify our information got updated successfully in the database, we can make this get call and see, right, did this email address update successfully. So let's check, and if you look at here, right, the email address got updated successfully. So there is another one which let's talk about, which is delete, right? So let's create another methods and select say delete, and if you look at here, right, we'll need to use similar way, which is almost same, but we need to change the HTTP methods to delete. And in delete, right, these are the couple of information which is required. Okay, so I think I missed one thing. Sometimes, right, in delete operation, it requires payload, but sometimes it does not. So in our one, right, it does not requires any payload, which I can see, because it just we need to pass the specific user which we have created. So let's try, and I'm gonna get the use URI from here, and let's copy it here. And if I send, right, we are gonna get authentication failed error, cause in delete call, right, it requires the valid authentication that you are authorized to perform this action. So let's
It
copy
means
it.
the every action we need the new authorization, right?
No. So remember, right? Earlier we logged into this application, right? Using my Google, right? Google, I signed in with Google. So this is the unique specific to you, right? This API token on is not expire, right? But in real work, right? This access token will expire in every 25 minutes. So you will need to log in, but most of the time, right, your developers, they will create some sort of API. By using that API, right, you can get tokens very easily. So I'll show you something, right, in real life how it works. But to make a get, put, delete, update call, right, you will require to put this key and value format, right? You have to pass in header section, you have to put the authorization, right, to making sure. So if you don't have valid authorization, right, you are getting authentication failed error. That means you are unauthorized to perform this action. To perform this action, right, you will require your unique access token. That means, right, access token will identify, okay, you have permission to do certain activity in their application. I hope that's clear. So let's copy this and get the value. And if I make a call, right, now this user will be deleted from the database. So let's see. Why it is giving me. Okay, yep. So it hit successfully, and the status code, right, which we are getting is 204, and everything, the meta and data is coming as a null. And to verify, right, this user has been deleted from the database, we could do same thing. Let's make a get call and make sure, right, uh, do we have, are we going to get this user information? If we are getting, right, then this means there is something wrong with our API. So let's do that. And we are getting 404, resource not found. So 404, this means, right, whatever we are trying to access, it either, it does not exist in the database, or we are trying to access wrong information. So this means, right, our API is working successfully. So these are the couple of, important HTTP calls which I wanted to cover. Now we can, talk about some of the assertion, then we can move on to some of the Postman features, right? Which is really great, which makes, Postman really great. So let's go for this one, right? If you want to perform any assertion, right? So there is a couple of things which we could check, right? First of all, we could check what is our status code, right? So in Postman, there is some of, they already provide some of the on build assertion. So if you guys look at on the right hand side, in the snippets, right, you can check there is some of the get an environment, get a global variable, get a variable. Let's check the one we are looking for. Status code is 200, right? So let's select this one and let's change this message. So if you look at here, right, whatever you are seeing in the assertion is JavaScript. So any of you know JavaScript, right? You can take leverage of all the assertion whichever you wants to perform. So let's change this. Okay, message to, let me say, verify status code is 200. And if I click on run, right, we are going to see something different in our response. Remember earlier I have told you, right, in the test results there was nothing, but if you go here, right now you can see there is one, it's kind of like, message. You could say there is a verify status code and the status is green. Green means pass, and already they have written pass. So let's change something in here. Let's change it to 2000 and send request again. And right now, if you look at here, right, assertion, it failed. And it's saying verify status code is 200, assertion expected response to have code to 2000 but code 200. So this is the most important thing, right? Even though if you work in Selenium or any of the application, you need to perform assertion, otherwise, right, you cannot prove, okay, whichever test you have done is working accurately, right? Let's say without performing any assertion, you have submit your, whichever story you had for testing, and you said, okay, you have performed all the testing and it's working successfully, right? And tomorrow if there are any problem, they are going to come to you and tell you, okay, could you show us all the reports whichever you have done? And if you show them, right, you did not perform any assertion, and it's like, pretty much you have missed. So as a QA, you always need to perform assertion as much as possible, right? So to making sure all the functionality and everything is working. So there is a couple of other assertion which we could use. Let me change it to 200 and let's go to body, right? So let's check, right, the total records. So if you want to check the total records, right, there is a couple of way we could do, but this is the way I like. And if you guys even doesn't know the Java scripts, you guys can use it. So let's do, we are going to create one variable. So in JavaScripts, right, in Java, right, I think all of you have done Java. So in JavaScripts, to create a data type, right, they have one data type called bar, and now we can give a name for this data type. So let's say I'm gonna give a response, and in response I'm gonna store a couple of things. So let's, what kind of response it is, right? It's a JSON format, so we're gonna type JSON dot, and if you put dot, right, you can see a couple of options provided by Postman. We're gonna, we want to parse this response, so let's say parse and then you have to write, right, what exactly you want to pass, right? So I'm gonna put parenthesis, and I want this response body, right? So you can write response body. And in Java is similar, right? In JavaScript, you have to end a sentence with semicolon. So now if I want to check, okay, what is my total value or anything, right? If you want to perform any assertion, we could do this way. We need to write test. So just notice one thing, right? Whatever Postman provided earlier, it has pm.test, but right now we are using our own assertion, right? So it start with test, then bracket, and in the bracket, right, we are gonna put our message, whatever we want to verify. So let's say we want to verify what is the total number, right? So verify the total number of records. And in here, what we are going to do is we're going to put equal sign, and we already save this, store the response in this response variable. So we can just use this variable. So let's say response dot, and we want to check the total, right? So in JSON, we have to go from this node, right? From meta, from this node to this node, right? If you look at here, this, okay, let me go up, scroll up. So this meta starts at line 3 and ends here, right? So inside meta, there is page, I'm not sure. Okay. So from this meta, we have to come to pagination, I think. So from here, this, it starts here and end at line 9. Now from here, we need to count this total, whatever total records is, right? So there is one nice way we can traverse in JSON, which is we can write meta dot, then this node, then dot, and whatever totals, right? We want to check this total records. So let's get this value. Then we can put equal sign, and let's say, what is the value? And ends with semicolon. Let's see if we send a request, does our assertion work successfully as we wanted? Okay, and in assertion, verify total number of record. Okay. Okay, if you look at here, right? This is a free application and it keeps changing, right? Someone might have add one participants in their record, so that's the reason it could change it to 1073, and whatever value we have 1072. So let's change it to 1073 and let's see does it works or not. Oh, okay. There is one another record, so it is 74. Yep, right now it works fine. So if you look at here, we have written two assertion and which is passed. And let me show you, there is one another, interesting, already Postman provides similar assertion, they have written, but let me show you the difference between them. You guys can decide, right? whichever assertion you guys like, and you guys can check. There is something called response body contain strings. Response body, okay, response equal to a string. So okay, body is here, right? We can do, Postman already provide this similar assertion, which we can take leverage of as well. And we can see, does it work the same way, which we wanted. So it's saying body is correct, response body is string. So let's check, does the response have this name, right? Get something which is very interesting. Okay, instead of going, let's check the limits, right? What are the limits? How many records of limits they are giving in a particular page? So if you look at these records, right, in the response, they're only showing us only 20 records. So that's the limits of the response in a particular page. So if you look at here in the response, we can see another field as a page, and there is total pages is 24. So instead of, we are just looking at the response page, only one field. So in that there is 20 records. Okay, let's check body is correct or not. Response body have 20. I can just copy it from here, and let's see if we perform this assertion, what do we get? Okay, one first body. Oh, okay, it's giving us the whole body. Okay, I think I used the wrong one. Okay, let me see. Okay. Body containing string. So this is the one we need. So we are just checking, okay, whichever strings we want to search, right? Does the response body have these strings? So let's say limits, and let me check right now. And if we look at here, right, all the assertion has been passed. So this means, right, whatever assertion we are trying to put is working as expected. So let's talk about some of the features, and I can show you guys more assertion in the upcoming test which I'm going to written. So let's talk about some of the features that Postman provide. In Postman, right, we can create a project, and is also known as a collection, right? In Postman, we don't call it project, but we call it collection, right? So there is a couple of ways we can create. If you see, there is one tab called as a collection. We can click on it, and there it's a plus icon. If you click on it, right, you can create all the collection. We can create one collection. Let's say I just clicked on it, and we can give the collection name. So let's give a name, go rest. So this, I have given the name as a go rest. The reason being it, the application, whichever we are testing, is name as a go rest, right? So here I have one collection, and if you look at my collection, right, there is empty, right? We don't have any request yet. So to add request, there is a couple of easy way we could do. and which we already have written, right? Some of that test earlier. So which, I haven't saved this one. So just press Control S, and here you can see, right, request name. So earlier we did not give any name or anything. So let's give it some nice name which we can uniquely identify, right, what this operation exactly do. So what we are doing in here, right, it's returning us all the records, right? It's giving us list of records, list of users. So okay, I think I'll take a look into that in a minute. So put Control S and get list of users, and request name we are giving as a get, is a get method. And what does this get, what we are getting, right, we're getting the list of users. So if you here, right, there is, we can give a message which is optional. So let's write some, nice message so we can identify exactly what this request does. So okay, let's write something. This request is responsible for getting all the users from GoRest API. And here you can see some of the information. If you scroll down here, right, we can see where do you want to save this request. So we have a couple of options, right? And earlier we created one collection which we have given name as a GoRest. Let's say, I want to save my request in here. So I'm just going to select this one and save to GoRest. If I click on save to GoRest, we can see there is one request added in the GoRest collection. And if I run it, it's going to work same way. And we can fix this, assertion later on. So right now I'm going to close this one. And we have another one, right, which we have used for PostgreSQL, right, creating a user. So let's do the same thing, Control S, and give this require post, create a user, and let's give some description. This method is user, and we're going to do same thing, right? We want to save from all these options, right? We want to save this request under GoRest collection and save to GoRest. And we can see this request has been added here. And there is another one which, okay, getting a specific user, same thing. Let's write get a, and you guys can, just put always nice description and everything, because as a QA is your responsibility to share, whatever collection you are writing. So you have to share this collection with your business analyst. And if let's say, there is some other team who are going to consume your API, so you have to provide, the collection with the collection to them so they can check, right, does your API meets their criteria or whatever they are looking for. So it's always best practice to give some sort of description what the specific request do or specific resource do. Okay, we need to save this one, which is put Control S. Time being now, I'm just putting something nice. Okay. Sir. This one. Okay. So this is one of the, really nice collection. It's like same thing as a Java, right? Where we create our project, then we save everything in there, right? So it's same thing in Postman, right? We can create a collection and we can store all of our tests in the same folder. And there is one another option, Postman also provide. You can create a folder. So you can create a get folder where you can store all your get requests, and you can create a couple of different folders and you can store all the requests in there. And right now, we are not going to do anything, but if we have more time, I can show you guys how we can do that. And there is one of the important thing which I wanted to bring is how can we set up environments, right? In real time, right? Whatever we are seeing, let's go to this application. Let's try to make some, so this is what we are seeing. It's in production, right? And it's a live application, which is as a user, we are able to access. Before they make it live, right? It went to a couple of phases of testing. First one is being as a, let's say, dev, then it move on to QA, also known as a test environment. Then it moved to stage, which stage environment is like most stable one. Then they move it to production. So in, if you look at, right, this is the production URL which we have. Let's assume, right, this is the production URL. If you want to run same request, right, in lower environments, we would have slightly different URL. Right now we can see, right, https co-rest co.in, and let's say, right, our dev environment is co.in.dev, right? So if it requires, right, all the times you have to change your domain URL for all the different stage, I mean, all the different environments. But in Postman, they provide one really nice, features, which is called, let's say, you can set up environments variable. So there is one I, you can see here, right? And if you mouse over on I, it says environment quick look. If you click on it, and I have a couple of things, let me delete all of it. So I'm just gonna uncheck everything. So this is stuff. So your will be have similar like whatever I have now. So there is two way we can set up. One is here, right? One is global variables and another one is environment variables. To right now, what we are trying to do, we are trying to set up something environments variable. So to set up that, you can click on edit. Okay, let me just edit from. And here, what you can do is, let me reset all. Yeah, because I'm not trying to delete all of it, but once you click on it, you will have similar, similar page where you can set up all the variables and everything. So just go click on this I variable and go here and click on edit, and it will bring up something like this, right? And you can give your environment variable name. So let's say we are giving our first environment, which is going to be, we are going to test on, is going to be dev, and we can get the URL something like this. Let's say this is our dev environment, and this is the code.dev / so this is the variable, this is the environment value, and we can save it. Now if you change it here, right, and here you can see this option, right, where you can give the name. So let's say this is your dev environment. I'm going to give dev. Or right, let me put something nice name, right? Yeah, let's give dev. This is my dev environment, and in the dev environment we have one variable name as a dev. I put in, but time being, let's change it to url, and this is my dev environment URL, and this is my URL value is. So if you want to take leverage of that, what we can do is, let me go here and do Control S. Let me go to one of my requests, right? Earlier, this one, if you look at here, right? From this drop down, we can select which are the environments we want to select, right? So we have one environment called as dev. We're gonna go dev environment. And if you click on dev, right? And click on this I, you can see there is one, environment variable link. We want to use this one instead of this, whichever we have right now. So to do that, what we can do is, if you look at here, right, up to dev we have. So let's remove this portion of it and put two curly brace. And what is the URL, right? What is the variable we have set up, right? Our variable name is URL. Then we have to close with two backward slash. So I mean two backward curly braces. So if I mouse over here, right, and I can see I have one environment, and this is my environment value. And if I run it, it's not going to work because there is no such environment as a dev, because we don't know, right, exactly what their dev environment value variable value is. So let's change it to what we have, right? We have core.in, and I'm going to remove this tab, and let's do Control S. And if I go here, right, and if I run, it should work. Okay, weird. Let's see. Okay, there is two forward slash. I'm just going to go here and put this core.in and do Control S and take this and go back here. Yes, we should have everything as dev environment, and if we send, it should work right now. This means 7% connection alive. Okay, let me change it to this to see why it's not working. Sorry, guys. Okay, it's working this way, but it's not working. It's weird. Okay, let's me do again. Let's give deb. Let's change it to deb1, and this is the URL, and this is my value, and I'm gonna do save changes. And here what I can do is URL and change to dev1, and if I send, okay, yeah, it's working. So sometimes Postman, I don't know, but I might be doing something wrong, but yeah, it's working. So you can add, right, all the environments you want. So let's say tomorrow someone else comes and tell you, right, okay, you need to add one more environment. So what you can do, just click on this add, and you can give the environment name here, such as, let's say, test, and give URL and URL value. I'm time being now, right? We don't know what exactly the test environment, value is. So time being now, I'm just putting same to show you how exactly it works. Let's say save changes, and if you look at here, right, is saying, if a mouse over is saying unresolved variable, right? This variable is not defined. The reason is, if you look at here, right, there is a couple of environment which we have create one environment deb and deb1, right? So if I go to here, right, the one we just created is called test. If I just go here and mouse over in here, right now we can see there is one URL, and if I run it, it should work successfully. Yep, it's working. And if you go here, right, just to right click. Okay, so there is one another cool features which also Postman provide. Let me save it. If you go here and do right click on it, and you can see there is a couple of things: add request, add folder, monitor collection, mock collection. But what we are trying to do is, right, we are trying to run all the tests at the same time. So click on this dot and you will see a couple of options. So if, let's say, you are working in a team, and let's say you have another, team member who is asking for, okay, can you share your collection with me, right? So what you can do is just click on these three dots and click on this share collection, and from here you can just, either you can collection your team workspace, or I have, a couple of different workspace. That's the reason it's showing it here like this. But I think you can share, what kind of workspace type. You will see some of the stuff. You, these are the couple of, collection we can share. So let's say, team workspace, share collection, and share and continue. Then you can share it to your team. So most of the time as a QA, people will come to you and ask you for the, whatever the Postman collection or whatever projects, whatever test, you are going to work on. They will ask you, could you share your, test and whatever you have written. So the easiest way you can do this is just click on these three dots and share collection. The next thing which I wanted to show you, right, like earlier I mentioned, how can we run all the tests together? So there is something you will see, run collection. If you click on it, run collection, and it's showing, right, you have couple of different options, which is, I mean, different methods. So we have currently 5 methods, and do you want to run all of it? You can just click on, you will see some of the, on the right hand side, how many times do you want to run those tests. So in the iteration, you can give how many times you want to run. Let's say, I want to run one time, and you can say delay, right? Do you want to delay means, right, after one request, do you want to wait couple of seconds, or do you want to, after that, you just want to run? So sometimes what happen in real time, right, if we have, let's say I have one create user, then I have one update user, these are the two of my requests. Sometimes it takes couple of seconds to get, to create a users, right? Once you create, it takes couple of seconds to get those information, to update those information in database. So it depends on, right, what kind of application you are working on. And you can see here there is one another option called data, where you can select file, but it's not required for us. And here you will see some of the option, right? Save response, keep variable values, run collection without using store cookies, and save cookies after collection run. So I don't think as of now is required for us. So we can just click on run collection. And if you look at here, right, there is some of the stuff we can notice, right? There is 5 of those requests have run, and in one where we can see there is 2, green and one is red, right? This mean in we have put assertion in only in this request. We have not, add any assertion for post, get, put, delete call. So do you guys think, is it a good way to run your collection, or we should add more assertion to, making sure whatever information, whatever, we are testing is working perfectly? So we can add more assertion for all the, request, or whatever, all the, request, and to making sure, right, whatever we are testing is working as expected. So let me just go and, I want all of you guys to help me, right? Let's do from the scratch again, and let's try, create a different users and try different way. So let's go. First, we are going to use the post call, and we can take leverage of whatever we have right now, right? Let me set it to no environment right now. And let's say we are going to create one user, and we have this body, right? Let's change it to this body is something else. Can one of you give me any name? Hello? Hello? Yeah, and if any of you provide any name, so we are trying to create a user, so after that we can add more assertion and to making sure, right, our test, our whatever we are, if whatever we want to test is working as expected. Or any
Yeah,
of you would like to guide me, right, guide me how we can make a post call. So whichever you guys like can do that.
yeah, name Faisal.
Okay, Faysal.
Yeah,
Okay, so okay, let's put Faisal, last name is
S.
S. Okay, And Faisal email is same thing. Let's say faysal faisal@gmail.com. Let's gender male, status is active. Okay, then what are the other things I need to look at?
Um,
Right.
I think I also need the authorization.
Yep, correct. So I already have authorization token here, but you guys will need to add authorization, right? And in authorization token, I already showed you, right? How can you get the authorization
Yeah, yeah.
token? Let me show
For
you.
the Gmail, Google.
Yep. So from this link in this website, you guys can get the authorization link here.
Yes.
So an authorization token, right? Once you sign in with your Gmail, it's gonna give you this token. After that, you have to append with bearer, right? Bearer
Yes.
space then your token value. And if
Okay.
you make, so let's say I if I click on send, it should create one user and username should be Faisal S, right?
Yes.
And this is the email. So let's put some of the assertion to making sure, right? Whatever user we are trying to create is getting, is creating successfully. So
Yes.
if you want to create, if you want to do some assertion, we can do. Let's go first. What we want to check our status code is 200, right? So
Yes.
from the from the snippets, we can use some of the on build Postman assertion. So this one is to verify status code is 200. So let me check. Verify status code is 200. What are the couple of other things you guys think we can check?
The ID.
Yeah, so ID is going to be dynamic, right? Because
Um,
we don't have control on this ID value. Let's
okay.
say,
So the name.
yeah, correct. So to check the name, right, we can
Yes.
do a couple of different ways. So what we can do, we can create one variable. Let's give us a
Var.
yep. Then variable name is response. Okay, maybe one of you can guide me, right? So response, then equal sign, then do you recall, right, how to store this response in the response variable? We'll, we'll need to put JSON dot parse,
Words.
then response body, right?
Yes.
And right now what we have done is whatever response we are getting, we are storing this response in this response variable.
Yeah. Variable. Yes.
So if you want to perform any assertion, right, let me show you one, which I more often I use in work right now, right? This JSON is not complex, right? I can clearly see what are the steps it's going to be if I wants to get name, right?
Yes.
So here, right, there is one key name as a code, there is another key as a meta, then there is one data. Inside data, right, there is ID, name, email, gender, status created, right? So if you want to get the name, you have to traverse from data, then name, right? So
Yes.
let's do that. We are going to write, okay, test, then give it one name, okay. Verify name is Faisal S. Okay, verify name value is Faisal S. Then we are going to put equal sign. Now we are going to call this value, right? variable. So okay, response. Then we're gonna put dot, and we're gonna traverse in this JSON, right? We are trying to get this name. So if you want to get this name, you have to first you
data.
have to come to data, right? You have to come to
Yes.
this value, then you can move on to this value. So let's put data dot
Name.
name, and then you are going to put equal sign because we are
Equals
comparing, and what we are comparing is
vessel. Vessel is.
vessel S. And can I add more assertion, right? Let's say I want to check vessel gender, right?
Yes.
So instead of copying it, let me do same thing, tests. Let's say verify vessel gender, then equal sign, response
Response
dot
dot data
data dot
dot gender equal male.
so I have made one
I
error.
think Paul bhai, the male is capital M.
Yep. And do you guys want to do more assertion, or you guys can do it later? So
Yeah.
if I try to create this user again, is it going to work, or is it going to give me any error? What do you think?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
So if I hit this request again, does it going to give me successful response, or is it going to give me any error? What do you think?
Um, is it unique value or unique?
Yeah. So in real time, right? We already
Yeah.
create.
I think create a same username. I think that's right.
Yes. So we already create this user, right? But since
Yeah.
it's public API, it might allow you to create
Yeah.
duplicate user cause.
Duplicate a username.
Yeah.
Maybe allow.
But it should not. So let's try and see, right, what we get. Yeah. If you look at here, we are getting one error, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Error saying has already been
Already
taken. That
taken.
means the field email, right? Two
Is field
user
email
can,
is unique, right?
yeah, two user cannot have same email, right? So
Right.
let's change to faisal123@gmail.com, and if I run it, it should work. Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if okay, response is not defined. There was an error. Deleting scripts, referencing error, response is not defined. How come? Response body parse JSON is correct. Then we have test, verify response, data name equal vessel. Okay, it's weird. Yeah, so it's always to double check. Let me go to one of my earlier tests. I think here we have written some of the tests, right? So it's giving me the error is like we are not sitting, but successfully we have set up here. Something went wrong while running your script. Check Postman console for more information.
Excuse me, Pavel bhai.
Yep.
I think you need to enter response.meta.data.
Are we missing anything? see how the response is formed. Yeah, so if we look at here, right? In here, it does not have any inside, my first value is going to be data. Then we are traversing like this.
Yeah.
So if I go here, let me see. It is saying the bar response JSON parse. Okay. Then I use, let's change it to response 1. And let me go to change this. Yeah, so I don't know why it wasn't let me earlier with response. So maybe
The variable name is same. Right?
yeah, I don't know what went wrong, but we can see, right? All of our assertion successfully
Pass.
passed.
Yeah.
And if I look at my body, right, it has email address faisal1@gmail.com. So this is the information we wanted to check, right? Yeah, so same thing we could do for, let's say, here, right? Get a specific user. If I want to get a specific user for, if I want to get Faisal, right? Faisal have this ID. So it's unique for, Faisal. So we can get this user and we can also perform some of the assertion. And let's say if I run. So do you guys wants to perform same assertion, or you guys want to do something different? So let's do one different way, right? Let's check, right? In the headers, right? This is the response headers. So we want to check what is the content type, right? There is a couple of things we can check, but this is the important one, right? What we check is content type is application slash JSON or not. So if I'm gonna go to my test again, and I think in Postman they already provide something. Okay, response headers. Okay, so we can take leverage of this assertion which Postman provides, and let's change it to verify content type is presence, and PM response header content type. This is what we are expecting in the content type. So let's change it. If you guys have any question, feel free to ask, please. And let's add one more assertion. So it's always better to add assertion on what is the status code. And in this application, right, they did not maintain properly the status code. So it's better, right? Let's check this response body code. So let me do one copy and paste easily. So I think I'm just copying this and get a specific user. I'm going to paste it there. And we want to check what is this code value, right? So verify. So can you want to help me, right? How can I do a assertion for code value? So I'll need to use this response one dot. Sorry. Okay, need to copy again. Dot code is equal 200. Excuse me. And let's see, does it works or not? showing content type assertion. Okay, let me remove these parts for a minute. Oh. Okay, so let me see, is this what we're doing or not? Okay, so in this here, right, what we are checking is verify content type is present. So they're basically checking this key content type is present or not. They are not checking for the value, but if you want to check for the value, right, there is one assertion. Let me get it here. I have, okay, response body, convert, status code, string. Okay, let me write it so all of us can understand. PM dot test verify content type value is, and then we can put comma.
Paolo, I have a question.
Yep.
What does PM means here? Is any
Okay.
class here?
Oh no. So okay, I think I forgot to mention. So this PM is like since we are using Postman, right?
Yes.
So this PM indicates we are using the Postman assertion, right? So
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, so after function, we need open and curly braces. And in here, right, what we could do is PM dot same way response dot to dot v. So if any of you are good with JavaScripts, right, you guys can do all the assertions, all kind of, but I'm not, that good in JavaScript. So header, and what we're trying to match is, let's say, content type. Content type, then comma, and this is the value what we are expecting, right? So it's kind of like the assertion what we do in the Selenium, right? Assert dot assert true. Okay, I think this is what it is. Let's see, does it works or not? So for the best. Yep, so it's working. So what I have done is, right, these are the Java scripts which I'm not good, otherwise I could have explained all the assertion clearly. But so we have capture response. What we are doing, right, first we are getting the Postman response. So we are not using this response variable name, we are getting the response from directly Postman here, body itself. So from the response, then we are checking two B headers, right? So in the headers, there is one variable with, where is this key content type? Then content type value should have this. So it's checking for that, and it's working as expected. Okay, all the four assertion have been working perfectly. And do you guys want to perform the delete? I don't think it's better. We should what we could do is, right, let's not put delete operation. Let's not perform delete operation. Instead of that, let's do one update, and what are the information he wants to update. Let's see. For this user, right? I think we just get this specific users. Now we want to update Faisal's email to okay, Faisal's. Sorry, let me check what are the values for environment. I think test. What are the status code they have? Oh, okay, inactive, active or inactive. So let's change and create a user. So what I am doing is, right, I am keeping Faisal status is same. I mean, Faisal information is same, but I'm just checking status is active to inactive. So let's check. Let's see, right? If I run it, let's see what I'm getting. So these are the information. So you guys can do similarly, you guys can add all the assertions and everything in similar way. So if I run my collection again, just go click on these three dots and run collection, right? You guys can just select everything here, then run go rest. And now you guys see all the assertions, and some of the assertions are failing, but we could check why it is. If you look at here, fail, okay, verify total number of records. So total number of records got changed. And in the post call, verify name Faisal as verify, okay, in post call why it is failing. Let's check. Okay, so it's the reason is failing because we already create this user, right? So let's change it to change Faisal email to just put anything and run your collection again and check what is it happening right now. Wow. Verify Faisal name value is Faisal as okay. Port, let me do control S, control S, control S, and if you just come here and run it again, let's see what we get. Okay, so earlier what happened was we did not save, right? Whatever we did in the request itself, we did not save it, right? So without saving it, we can run it individually, but when we are trying to run as a group, right, run as a collection, we will require to save it before run as it. So that's the reason it could not pick up earlier. And let me share a couple of websites, right, where you guys can, if you guys are not sure, right, how to find a specific node or anything, you guys can go to Google and search for JSON Pathfinder. Let me check JSONPathfinder.com. Okay, yep, this is the one. So if I take my response here and paste it in this link, and if I want to, find a specific path, right? If you look at here, right, there is a couple of things we can see here. If you want to get the email, so email is under data, right? If you just go here, and if I want to get this value, so just click on it, it's already giving you the path, right? So you can just copy paste from here and put it in your assertion. So this is very useful when you have very complex JSON. And let me so do you guys have any question, right? How can we get it and work, right? How can we create a Postman projects and everything, anything like that? Let me show you another API, right? So this is what I have for this API, but let me show you one another API which is really good so you guys can practice. And nowadays, right, API is really important, guys. So just try to take it seriously because in all the company, right, all the company, they're trying to migrate their, they're, trying to move into APIs. So API is very faster and you can get the response pretty quick. If you consider same scenario, right, in UI, if you want to create a user through API, we can just create a user, less than 2-3 seconds. But if you want to perform same action in the UI, it would have taken a couple of seconds to get the successful response and everything. So API is very faster. And let me go one of the API I was looking other day. Let's see. So this is one another API, right? I want you guys to try, and if you guys have any question, please reach out to Shantabai or me. From here, if you look at here, they have provided all the documents and everything. How can you get all the information? So first of all, in here, you also have to authenticate yourself, and to authenticate, right, you will need to make one post request, and they already have given you the URLs and example, right? How can I make a post request? And you guys should ignore this request as of now. This is a curl commands, which is like, is little advanced, but in Postman, you can also use curl commands, but it's not required. You can do it manually. So I'm just gonna give you guys one operation, how it's gonna be look like, so you guys can practice on. So let's go this and let's create, let me go all other tabs. I'm gonna click on this right click and try to create one request. And this is the URL which we copied from here, right? And if you look at, right, they're saying to OAuth creation, right? Create a new OAuth token to user for access to put and delete booking. So this is the URL we will need to hit. So in real life, the reason I'm showing you, right? In real life, earlier you mentioned, I think Faisal mentioned, right? How can we get this token, right? In work or anywhere, right? This token will expire in every 25 minutes because it's a highly sensitive information and they don't want to provide you with a, one token which you can use, all the times. So for that, they will provide you similar something. So I just want to show you how it's going to be look like. And it's a post call, and we're going to do same thing. Go to body, and you can select raw radio button, and in this, text drop down, select JSON, and from here you can paste this username and password from this website. And if you send, right, what it's going to do is it's going to give you one unique token. So this token is very important if you want to perform any sort of API, request or any API operations. So let's take one examples here. It was saying headers is field is content type set format payload, but it wasn't required. So, default it was applied. But if you look at here, right, response body, in this response body we are passing username and password which was provided by them, admin, and password is this, and we should get 200 successful status code. And in the response body we should have one token field, and the value here, the status code is 200, and this is the token value. Here it is, this the token we have. And now if you want to, let's say they are saying okay, booking, right, get booking IDs, okay, which is weird. Return the IDs of all booking that exist within the API. Can take optional query string to search and return a subsequent of booking IDs. So let's take this one and try it. Okay, let's do same thing, create another request, and here, right, it's a get request. And if you look at here, right, parameters, oh, okay, I did not show you, it's optional, but okay. Oh, okay, let me show you this stuff. So okay, so I'm gonna send, I'm just gonna click on send and see what kind of request we are getting, right? So if you look at here, right, the response what we are getting is pretty straightforward, which is we are getting all the booking IDs, right, here, and they have already given the response is going to be something like this. And you guys can try, right, all the everything's how it's going to be look like, and you guys can check out this. There is one another example as well, and where it's saying, let me show you something which is very important. I'm just going to copy this URI, and sorry, I'm just going to make, okay, it's weird. So this is called something as a query parameters. So query parameters work as a where clause. I think I have mentioned something like that earlier. So you can filter out a specific information. If you guys have you guys done any search in Google, and let me just go here. And if I search iPhone, right, let's say, so if you guys look at this URL, so this is the domain URL. This portion is the domain URL, and this is, they're providing one search API. And after search, you will see one question mark, then there is Q. I think Q is most likely, right, what is we are searching, right? So Q then equal we are searching iPhone, and then they're searching for some other information as well, RLZ and this sort of stuff. Same thing we could do in the API as well. So let me go and show you something nicer. I think we are almost running out of time, but let's see. Okay. Let me do something like this one earlier, which we have done. So if you look at here, right, what we are getting is a particular person information. If I want to do search by, I want to get all the information for where participant, where, the say user, you could say username is John. So let's create something and check. And let's do last name. Okay, so this, it does not return all the information, but these are the two user, or two particular participant have last name is John on their account. So their last name is John. For these are the two booking IDs, 10 and 1. So yeah, I don't know why it is like this, but yeah, you guys can check it out, this one as well. But I would recommend for you guys, just go over this API and play around and see, right, what are the information you guys can get, and what guys can you guys what you guys can do, and just try to learn some of the basic, which will be very helpful, right, once you join company. And I can guarantee, right, I have seen a couple of my friends as well join, right, they have been hired as a Selenium tester, but they are also given they are also required to perform some of the API testing as well. So just to get some basic idea, how can you test, using the Postman tool, and get some of the stuffs. I hope that helps. And I'll share, these links with you guys so you guys can check it out. Shantabhai, that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Pavel. Let me stop the recording and then we can talk like few more minutes.
Yep, sure.